Help support AMTV by becoming a patron, an AMTV staff member, and following us over on Twitter. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martin here, and welcome back to another instalment of the Now Review. And this time, once again, we are taking a look at a brand new Now album that has come out on its release day, so this day being the 30th of October. And despite it being one day away from Halloween, we have a Christmas album to review to you. This is Now 100 Hits Christmas. Now, I'm sure some of you will be looking at the screen and going, Adam, what are you doing? You've already reviewed this album last year. This came out last year. Well, surprisingly, that's incorrect. You see, this is the album I picked up today. This is the album I reviewed last year. I'll put it in front. Now 100 Hits Christmas. Yeah, bit of double identity going on, wouldn't you say? So you've got the new one here on the left, the old one on the right. What's the difference in the front cover? Well, this one's, it's like dusk there. It's like later in the day, but everything else is the same. Oh, and the label, that says new 5CD, not just 5CD. Yeah, I think Now got pretty lazy with this from the off. Now, I'm not going to let that impact my whole review just yet. I mean, yes, it's a lazy idea. Let's do the same Christmas album again, vaguely change the cover and maybe the track list. Having said that, I remember when the old album came out last year, two big songs that were not on it at all were Last Christmas by Wham! And All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey, arguably the two biggest Christmas songs on there. So I'd like to think that they are now on this album, or at least there's some differentiation on there. And that's what we'll get into in a minute. But with the cover, pretty much whatever I said last year still stands this year. It's really nice, you know. I like the fact it's like a warm glow at the bottom, but to change so little about it, you couldn't have even given us a new cover. Really, it's like they took their existing stock, slightly altered the colours, put a new label on it in the top left, and then spat it out the door. It's really lazy, to be honest. But let's have a look at that all-important track list. So that's the back, and there's 100 hits in that paragraph style, but we really need to open the album, wouldn't you say? So let's open the first little part of the door here and take a look at what is on disc 1. Okay, so we have an instant remedy. Last Christmas by Wham! Is the first track. I guess they really wanted to make a point. Hey, look, we have it now. I still don't know why it wasn't on last year's Now That's What I Call Christmas. I'm guessing it was down to a rights thing, it usually is, but I'm glad it's on here now. Fairy Tale of New York, great song. Driving Home for Christmas, Merry Christmas Everyone. I mean, just look at like these first 12 songs you can see on camera, and pretty much everyone knows these songs. They always put Christmas Lights by Coldplay, which isn't a bad song. I actually really like it. It's just they push it so much. I don't hear a lot of people talk about it. And you got Kylie Minogue, you got Boney M, like all the names you'd expect. You know, Santa Claus is Coming to Town by the Jackson 5 again, classic Christmas song. This one finishes with Greg Lake and I Believe in Father Christmas, which is a song I've sang before for a Christmas concert, and it's a song I think doesn't get a lot of attention these days, but check it out, it's a good one. Okay, CD2 kicks off with John Lennon and Happy Xmas War Is Over, which actually was the first track on CD1 of last year's release. They've just pushed it back. Again, more stuff you start to recognise. Now, the tradition with these Christmas albums is as you get into them, there's a lot of stuff from like the 1940s, 50s and 60s by older artists. And that holds true. I'm seeing Bing Crosby, of course, of White Christmas, Dean Martin, for example, Andy Williams. You know, a lot of recognisable names from the past. More names as you go down here. Some I've not heard of before. I mean, I wasn't going to trek through the whole past album to see how many of those 100 tracks are still the same, but I'm guessing a lot of them are. There are only so many Christmas songs, you know. And the last one here is Jim Reeves of Silver Bells, which again, especially if you've gone to church a lot, is a classic. Okay, here is CD3 with Jackson 5 and Frosty the Snowman. Now, for a while, that was the Christmas song they used to put on the Christmas albums. Like, they never used to put Santa Claus is Coming to Town, even though that's the most well-known song from them. But I'm glad it's on here as well. It's a good rendition. You've got What Christmas Means to Me, bit of Stevie Wonder, Engelbert Humperdinck, some repeat names like, you know, Jim Reeves, Peggy Lee, all that sort of stuff. Mike Oldfield with In Dulce Jubilo, which is a great Christmas song. You got Christmas Rapping by the Waitresses. I think a lot of people don't know that song by name or the artist, but trust me, if you hear it, you'll have heard it every single year since it came out. Lonely This Christmas by Mud. Really sad song in a way, but really nice song at the same time. Winter's Tale by David Essex, of course. You've got Celine Dion doing Oh Holy Night. I can't remember if that track was on the last album, but that'd be an amazing rendition, because I mean, it's Celine Dion. You'd listen to her voice, it's incredible. Okay, CD4, you've got a version of Baby It's Cold Outside. You've got James Brown, Jethro Tull. I think when you look through these albums, it amazes you just how many artists have recorded Christmas songs over that time, and it really stands out which ones are remembered, so pretty much most things on disc 1, to the things that like aren't remembered as much. Like, I didn't know James Brown had a Christmas song. You've got the Spinners, you've got the Jackson 5, Jim Reeves again. Some of these guys, especially back in the day, would have done like a whole Christmas album. Of course, you've got the Beach Boys with Little Saint Nick, Peggy Lee again, finishing with Aled Jones and Walking in the Air, which of course was famously featured in the film The Snowman. Aled Jones is, well, he's all grown up now, but it's one of the standout songs from that film. And we're kicking off with CD5, Peace on Earth and Little Drummer Boy. Interesting combination between Bing Crosby and David Bowie. That still holds up a little bit. You got Stay Another Day by E17, which of course, the song itself isn't a Christmas song. It's actually about death, but because, you know, I guess it was released around the time, and we all play it at Christmas, don't we? It's got the Christmas bells. Whitney Houston had a Christmas song, did you know? That was on last year's, I remember that. You got Luther Vandross, Marvin Gaye, Aretha Franklin. Oh, yes, you got The Darkness with Christmas Time. Don't want that so low down. That's a brilliant Christmas song. I hope a lot more people remember The Darkness. Britney Spears had a Christmas song, apparently. You know, there you go. Girls Aloud, of course. Cliff Richard. NSYNC. Whitney Houston again. Do you hear what I hear? Susan Boyle, yep. And finishing with ABBA and Happy New Year. And they actually finished the last Now 100 Hits Christmas album from last year. And I think they finished a few of these Christmas albums too. So that, in a nutshell, is Now 100 Hits Christmas. And I mean, guys, what else is there to say? I mean, I can't get over the packaging just with how lazy it is, literally reusing the same design and changing, like, the slightest thing. It is pretty lazy, if you ask me. But in terms of the track list, there are some noticeable differences. Like I said, you've got the Wham track on there. Still no Mariah Carey. What is wrong with it now? Why can't you get it? Is it a rights thing? Because you used to have it all the time. No Mariah Carey. And from what I saw last year, I think Robbie Williams released a whole Christmas album. Unless I missed it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't see any of that on there, which is a big surprise to me. I'm sure there's a few other big hitters that people will point out that aren't on here. And yes, I know they can't get the rights to every single song in the world, but considering the Christmas albums in the past could only go up to 60 tracks, you know, now we've got 100, you're telling me you still can't get them on there, yet you can feature, you know, Peggy Lee and Dean Martin 2-3 times. I get it might be more of a challenge because you've got to fill 100 tracks, but basically, guys, in my opinion, I don't know why they released this so soon. I would be much more understanding, even if they released it with the same artwork like they have done here, I would be much more understanding if they released this maybe, I don't know, a minimum of 3 years after last year's. The fact they've done it 1 year afterwards and the similarities are so glaring. I mean, here's the story, right? I went to HMV today to buy it and I said, do you have the new album? He said no. I went, oh, well, do you mind checking? He's like, yeah, of course. And he picked up this album and he said, is this it? And I went, yeah. He went, oh, it looks like last year's. And I told him the only difference is the new 5 CD in the top left and the colour thing. And he said, you know, an employee of HMV was like, oh, that's pretty stupid, isn't it? It's just lazy. You couldn't come up with more artwork. I'm sorry, I just can't get over it. And the fact you've done it again, you could have just sold last year's album. People bought it last year despite it not having Wham or Mariah on it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've bought it. I'm a collector of these things. I like collecting them, and I'm sure collectors will grab it too. But recommendations, guys. I mean, if you got last year's release, if you got this release right here, and you enjoy that, don't buy this one. There's absolutely no need to buy this one. If you do want to buy it, if you didn't buy last year's, I mean, you can get it from all the usuals. I've heard Sainsbury's have stopped carrying Now albums as they're, you know, deemed non-essential during this pandemic, which is fair enough. I think you can still get them from Tesco's, but HMV is a solid bet, or on Amazon, of course, but you might get it later on release day. Anywhere from £11 to £13 as usual. It'll go into 15 once Christmas is done. But again, I can't stress enough, if you bought last year's release, unless you're a collector, do not buy this one. But that is all for this installment of the Now Review. Thank you very much for watching. As always, though, if you enjoyed it, please leave a like on this video and let me know in the comments, are you planning on picking this lazy retread up, or are you just going to pass on it completely? Please subscribe to the channel for more Now-related content. And until the next one, I will see you guys next time. Thank you to our patrons for helping to support the show, and a special thank you to Macra, Hooks Media, Ben Freeman, Ethan Carberry-Holt, Bruce Danton, The Broken Kitsumanoid, Tobos Krotz, and Polsky Liz, our AMTV staff members.